Hey guys, trying to get this adjusted. Hello. I'm driving home in Atlanta traffic and it's super fun, but I wanted to take this opportunity to record this video because I haven't been able to in the past week, and I apologize for those of you who have sent emails and messages, and I told you I was gonna make a video I think last Thursday and I never did. My parents are in town and it's just been a crazy week, so I apologize, but I wanted to get this out there because it's important and you guys need to hear it. So, new grad interviews. Okay, so totally like the scariest, craziest, most anxiety-provoking, nerve-wracking event ever is that job interview that you go to, that first job interview. Because your second and your third job interview, if you're like me and you have 3 jobs in 3 years, they're not so bad because you've got the experience and you don't feel so intimidated because you feel a little more confident that you have experience and you have knowledge, and you know what the heck they're talking about with the questions they're asking. But with new grad, so here's the deal. They have these new fancy things called residency programs, and it's almost impossible to get a job anytime, or anywhere these days without going through a residency program. And residency programs are basically these programs they've set up to help new grads transition onto the floor. I think some hospitals do it really well, and some hospitals just don't know what the heck's going on, and it takes a while to get the kinks out of it. Unfortunately, I was a victim of the first residency program at my hospital, and it was awful. But I've heard that they're really good things, and it helps kind of orient you to the hospital, to the floor, and to just learning the basics of nursing. And you also get to be a part of a group that you grow with, and you have these first experiences together. So that's really cool. But your first interview is always like, you're just, you're Googling all these questions and you're looking at nursing forums and, trying to find out like what are nursing interview questions for new grads and all this kind of stuff. You never know what they're going to ask you, okay? That's the reality of it. You can a lot of times it's going to be things about, what would you do in this situation, or how would you delegate, kind of like sort of NCLEX-y questions, not as like straight edge and proper and clear as those, but I remember a question that I was asked was, have I ever had my integrity questioned? How did I delegate, or how would I delegate this situation? Just those kind of questions. And I don't know if it's like that everywhere, because I think new grad interviews, they ask very different things than they do with experienced nurses, because they know you don't know. And that's important to know, is the fact that they know that you don't know. So don't try to fake it. Don't try to act like you know everything. The best thing that you can do is express your willingness to learn, your willingness to be a team player and to come alongside your other nurses and be of a help and a hand to them. Like I said, don't go in there overly confident, like you know it all and you don't need help. Like that's definitely not a good base, especially for a first-year nurse. But just, if they ask you a question and you're really unsure about it, or it's kind of just throwing you for a loop, like just give your answer and then explain like, hey, I don't know everything, and I know I don't know everything, but I'm so willing to learn, and I'm willing to be patient, I'm a good listener, and go from there. That's kind of a really big point to make when you're interviewing. Secondly, this should be firstly, because this is your first impression, you need to smile, because Lord knows is like, you don't want to walk in and be like, hey, I'm Kelsey. Yeah, I'm looking for a job. Like, no, that's not cool, okay? That's like when you walk into a patient's room and like you're their nurse, and if you had like the Grim Reaper's face on, your patient's just gonna be like, oh great, like who's my nurse today? That's kind of how it is with interviewing. Like they want to see your happy face. They want to see, oh my gosh, like look at this pleasant person. Like we want them to be a part of our floor. So that's really important, is to smile, okay? Thirdly, I'm trying to think what other things are really important. Make sure you dress nice, cover up your cleavage. Men, I'm just kidding. Women, cover up your lady assets. Make sure you look classy. I actually invested in a outfit that was kind of pricey, but I wore it to every interview because nobody knew that I had already worn it to an interview the day before, or the day before that, or the day before that, because it was at a different hospital. So I got something that I felt really comfortable and really confident in, and that really helps mentally prepare you, because you're like, dang, I look good. And so you feel better about going into the interview. Like, it's just the reality of it, guys. But anyhow, so make sure you dress nicely. You know, they're gonna ask you, do you have any questions for us? You don't necessarily, like, you're not gonna be penalized for not having questions for them, but that typically does get asked. And my thing I would just say is, you know, you can ask them about their nurse to patient ratios. You know, just say, what do you guys start your patients out in on day shift? What do you start them out on night shift? Because it's important to know how their ratios are, because honestly, like, I don't want your first year to stink. Like, I don't want you guys to hate your job because you think that nursing is just this awful punishment of overloaded patient ratios, because it's not like that everywhere. My second job that I had was awful. My first job had an awesome nurse to patient ratio. My second job I quit because I had an awful nurse to patient ratio. And my third job, which is the one I have now, I absolutely love. So, you know, you want to ask those kind of questions. What else? Let's see. They're going to ask you probably, what are your strengths? Like, what are you good with? You know, tell them, be honest. You know, this is your chance to shine. Tell them a little about yourself and who you are, and be different. You know, you want to stand out, and you don't want to be like weird standoutish, but you want to be like, oh, I remember that girl, or I remember that guy. And then they're going to ask you what your weaknesses are. And honestly, like, tell them what your weaknesses are. Like, I know my weaknesses are organization. Like, I am totally like right brain dominant. Like, I'm scatterbrained. I'm ADD. I have to be doing something all the time. I'm not very organized. And one thing is, they ask, you know, they ask about your weaknesses, and then they say, well, how will you work with them, or how will you address them, you know, in work? And for me, that threw me for a loop, because I was like, I don't know, like, what am I gonna do? But now, actually, the way that I have dealt with it is I actually have like a chart that I copy, and a lot of seasoned nurses don't even keep like paper, or like write down or keep track of their charting and whatnot, but I have to, because I don't function well. Like, I can't do it all in my head. I have to write it out. So they might ask you, you know, how are you going to deal with these weaknesses in the real world? So those are some things that they might ask. I'm trying to think what other things they say. But like, really, my biggest thing is be confident, be you, get up that morning, you know, put on your makeup, or for guys, take a shower, get your coffee, you know, have your quiet time, or whatever it is that kind of just gets your brain going and motivates you. If you do devotionals, do a devotional. If you need to read a nursing inspiration, read one of mine. You can go on my website. There's lots of things that are encouraging you about that kind of stuff. And I think it's just really important just to get your mind and your brain going and saying, I can do this, because you are strong, you are smart, you made it through the hard part, you made it through nursing school, and nursing school and the floor are literally black and white. So don't think that, like, if you didn't make straight A's through nursing school, you're going to be a terrible nurse. No, that is not true, because they are completely different ball games, and you're going to be awesome, and you're going to rock it like it's hot. So just be confident in that. And let's say you didn't get your job. You didn't get your job, so what? You move on. Life goes on. You go keep applying. You're going to get a job, and you're going to be awesome. I cannot tell you guys how many setbacks and failures that I have had that have had to do with nursing. And it's just the reality of life. Things happen. That doesn't mean you're not meant to be a nurse and you're not going to be a good one. You're going to be awesome, and you're going to do great. So that is my 2 cents about interviewing. Let me just kind of think real quick if there's anything else. So smile, dress nicely, make sure you prepare in the morning, get there a little early. I'm terrible at being on time and early, so get there early. Always a big deal. Thank them after your interview. Just thank them for the opportunity to be there and for their time, and then go home and send them a follow-up thank you. Like, just email whoever it was that you interviewed with, or whoever's in charge of them. Just email them and express your thanks for allowing you to interview, and you look forward to hearing to them. That's a really big thing. You guys are going to be awesome. Like, totally just do your thing, be you, be confident, smile, dress nicely. Think about your questions, talk in the mirror at home. Even if they're not the same questions they ask in the interview, it's still good exposure. So before I blind myself from this awful sun, I'm gonna go and get in an accident. But you guys rock, you're gonna do amazing. If you have any other questions, let me know, and your heart is mine. Bye.